really quick. Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Future of Real Estate, Tulsa's source for local real estate news. And I'm worried there's a hot.
Right now that have just embraced the lifestyle of homelessness. And of course, we talked about this group being the unsheltered. So anybody who's out panhandling or living in any place that's not a designated place for a human being to live, that's an unsheltered person.
And they're doing that. They're doing that by choice. This isn't the historic
What houses
or
are we going to talk
traditional.
about today?
I don't know. I didn't have
have
specialists. I just have
terrible
this one.
financial issues
Okay.
or
I don't have an open house this Sunday.
mental illness, things
So,
that you mentioned
This
previously.
Sunday?
I do
This is
not.
a
I have
choice.
one the next two Sundays.
There is a
Livingston's
significant number of
in,
them that are choosing
Seth.
to stay out
Seth
on
first
their own.
and
In
then
fact, will
Livingston.
decline.
I showed Seth the house last
So if you
weekend.
just go by to do wellness
They
checks,
wanted
you
it with
just
somebody
go
else
by
behind it.
their camp or where they're staying to
They're in a
offer
sluggish
services
price.
or just compassion, or in my case,
Yeah.
offer prayer and maybe shelter that night. They decline. I've been declined more in the last year than I've ever been declined.
This was a
Don't
really
need you,
interesting talk.
don't want
Steve.
your
It
help.
sounds like it. I'm going to listen.
It doesn't mean we're going to stop outreaching them, because at some point they're going to reach the end of themselves
Their means.
in a pretty bad place. But it's disconcerting when there's that many people saying, I'm perfectly fine living the rest of my life under this bridge.
What is driving this change? I mean, when have we ever thought that was just societally, or had groups of people thinking that that's the way to live? I mean, is this like Hate Street all over again?
But no, the truth of the matter is, living in a shelter is tough. I call it a cauldron, because it will kind of cook you down a little bit. But you don't really get to say when you go to bed. You don't really get to say when you get up. You don't get to choose what you eat. It's not a pleasant experience. It's not the free American experience where we can go eat at any one of 100 restaurants. They're just living in a shelter and just doing the very best that they can. We're doing the very best we can to make sure they get good food. And even though we do our very best to make that a hospitable, caring experience, it's not the freedom that they want. So it's kind of a twist on entitlement, Daryl. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They want what they want when they want it. And so I'm going to live right here, and I'm free. Nobody can tell me what to do.
I want stuff, and I don't want rules.
That's right.
Oh, my kids have tried that. So, where is this population coming from? We've seen it grow, and my conjecture would be that is not coming from Tulsa, but not all of them.
Well, there's just the overall homeless population has changed just marginally. Most of the people are from Tulsa, but there are a few other people that are filtering through here from other communities, from literally everywhere, from Kansas City, from Joplin, from Dallas. But not so much as you might think. But the number is growing. There's always a group that's going through here. It's not like you think they jumped on a train and jumped off in Tulsa. It doesn't work that way anymore. But they find ways to get from one community to the next.
How much longer is this segment?
It's a tough circumstance for us right now. I'm not sure what would happen right now. The honest truth is, Daryl, I'm not sure what we would do because the shelters are
Okay,
full.
go straight to a commercial then.
So if all the people living on the bridges, all the people from the cameras were to show up, we wouldn't have half the beds that we need right now. So that's a matter of consternation, and the shelters are meeting monthly, almost weekly right now to discuss this matter as bad weather is surely around the corner with this winter not far away.
What are the politics of this? How are we handling this from a government and management, city management system?
You know, if G.T. Bynum was here right now, I'd high-five the guy. He's hired some really smart people, particularly people that are looking at some of the funding sources that we need as a community. And so that is a function of government to make sure that we're receiving everything that the feds do want to give to our community to deal with the issue of homelessness. And then dealing with an additional issue is we are number 11 in the nation in evictions. And so that is contributing to the circumstances that are sheltered right now. So dealing with evictions, finding decent affordable housing, which this is your specialty, but affordable housing for decent affordable housing for people that are struggling with poverty that are in that circumstance is an issue. And there's the city of Tulsa is looking into what they can do to bring about decent affordable housing in a mixed income model. It's going to be different for us in the future, but there's some real potentials down the road the next 5 years.
There's a lot of stuff happening, and I think it's going to open up. Just now that you brought this up, it's difficult to be a landlord for low income housing. Many times because of the first of all, there's not as much profit. And second, there's a lot more, it's a lot more management intensive. You're dealing with part of the population who may not have had the same educational background. And I don't mean reading, math, and that kind of thing. I mean just simple financial management. Maybe they're low income because of the circumstances they grew up in, and they just know what they know. So it's missional for a low income property owner to do that, because they are often helping people manage their lives in a way that an upper income property owner doesn't have to. And I'm seeing some discussion beginning to open up. I had a meeting with the health department about, look, I've had people who are angry with me as a landlord. I'm a great landlord, and had them turn me in for things that I shouldn't have been turned in for, which just created a whole new process of red tape to go through and prove that I was doing things right, which was more harm to the tenant because now I don't want them there. Well, that was their low income. But if they had somebody to reach out to, and I'm kind of planting a seed with you, trying to get all of these people kind of on board with where some of the difficulty is with lower income housing, because it is really important that we have it. It becomes everyone's problem when we're not taking care of the lowest in the society in a responsible manner. So,
well, I tell you, what really manifests itself, Daryl, is with the elderly at risk, and specifically older women over 50 years old, and there has been a major bump in that number. Probably 50, 60 new women over 50 years old that are homeless just over the last 6 months.
Yeah, and that's tragic.
Due to the homeless system. So that's a matter of consternation for all of us, I would hope.
What do we do? We're not on leadership teams. We're not in the middle of helping the homeless. We go to work every day. We're driving by panhandlers. What do I need to know as just a citizen of Tulsa? Yesterday, I drove up. It was night. There were a couple of people that stopped and gave money to a panhandler on the side of the road, just sitting there. And my heart goes out to the panhandler, thinking, there's got to be a better way for you. And I certainly don't want you to starve to death. But I don't like you sitting on the side of the road doing nothing while everyone else is working hard and you're just taking handouts, not doing anything to better your life. What do we do? How do we handle this?
Well, I'm always quick to say, don't give money to panhandlers, and leave that to the professionals that are doing casework. And I think people don't think that those people are being outreached, and that's just not true. Categorically, every person that is a panhandler is outreached by my my team, but it's a coordinated outreach team, which is part of the local continuum of care, a HUD construct, but it's required for our community. And so people do stop and do wellness checks or mental health checks, or in our case, just hospitable, can we get you in the shelter? Can we help get you in housing? There's opportunity for all of that. They're there for the money, Daryl. They're panhandling in Tulsa. That's not truly a person. The casework shows that's really, really in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they've got a good story, it's more of a scam. They're typically grifters. That's something we have to stop. Now, more recently, we've seen the incidences of third world begging. That's the head down, cup over their head, sitting there with a styrofoam cup. And the casework shows that those people are worthy of $1 or $2. But the handing the $20 out of the window, $20 bill out the window to the person on the side of the street because they stood there with a cardboard sign is toxic charity. It's harmful to the community. It's harmful to the person receiving it. It makes them dependent in a way that's very, very, very negative for them and for the people that are around them as well. So
the next book on my list,
people not to do that.
The next book on my list is When Helping Hurts. Does that address this?
Yes.
It sounds like it addresses this kind of thing.
It does. When Helping Hurts was the first of the genre. Toxic Charity is a better book. Charity Detox is even better than that. And those last two were written by Robert Lupton. And but all three books are the same genre, and it challenges the notion of charity when you don't know the circumstances. And so who's got time to do casework? People are just giving because they're trying to feel generous. But from my standpoint, Daryl, dopamine is dopamine. When you give away a $20 bill to somebody you perceive as in poverty, that makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get a little rush of dopamine. And it's just not helpful. They're doing it. I think the person giving hasn't had an opportunity to truly know what the circumstances of that person is. And I promise you they're being outreached.
Mm.
And so if they don't think that vetted professionals with degrees are out there talking to them, I think people are mistaken. So we've got a bit of a cultural problem there we need to address for ourselves. The unsheltered number is going to continue to grow if you look at what's going on the East Coast and West Coast. And as they filter into our neighborhoods, it'll become more of a challenge for law enforcement, for people in communities, for property owners. What do we do and how do we respond in a truly compassionate, appropriate way to help people find their way home or to help them to have a home? So that's a whole process into itself. But I think it's Tulsa, Oklahoma. We can do it. At the end of the day, the father's saying this, we can do better than what we're doing. And just giving $20 out the window to somebody at the side of the road is not the answer.
Yeah, this is really exceptional information, and exactly what I wanted to hear for myself and share with others. Stephen Whitaker, a John 3:16 mission. This is the time of year when we all start to think about it. It's Christmas, Thanksgiving. It gets cold outside. You need help all through the year.
What about the bell ringers?
Always, John
Bell ringers at Christmas, those are
not giving a
legitimate.
handout.
They've been having trouble getting
really
bell ringers.
providing hope.
But I mean,
providing,
that's a legitimate place to give
you don't
money,
use the
isn't it?
word recovery. You use the word restoration. Is that correct?
I do.
And
They get their life back. We have it every day. In fact, today, I've got 3 people graduating from our programs, 1 woman and 2 men that have completed the program. Their graduations all the time of people that have completed it and going back out and starting lives over.
thank you for what you do for Tulsa and for the people's lives that you touch. Stephen Whitaker, John 3:16 Mission, John316mission.org. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
I want to tell you about my friends at Integrity Title. They provide great service, efficient, professional, reliable, low fees, saving my clients money. That's the kind of experience I want for my buyers and sellers. Integrity Title and Closings. Find them online at integritytitleandclosings.com or call them 918-749-9130. That's 918-749-9130. You're the customer. You're the buyer. You're the seller. You can choose 918-749-9130. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, Sadie,
Do you want to go work on scrapbooks together?
Okay, let's do it.
This tiny, huge moment is brought to you by TTCU Federal Credit
When
Union.
quality and value
Our
matter
super
most,
simple online mortgage
choose Window World.
application frees you up to
Superior
focus
service, American-made products, and industry-leading warranties make us the #1 choice for your next home remodel. J.D. Power ranked Window World highest in customer satisfaction with window and patio door retailers. Be proud of your home and take care of it with a brand you can trust. Window World, America's exterior remodeler.
I live in a 100-year-old home. It's a home I fell in love with, and it has so many amazing features. But the one thing it does not have is straight windows. It has windows that are cracked and broken and worn out. I contacted Window World. They came in and put these brand new, amazing, incredibly beautiful windows into my home. From the outside of the house, they match the exterior perfectly. It looks like they've always been here. Now the windows are the jewels in the home. Window World, from the beginning to the end, they met and exceeded every expectation I had. Window World really is simply the best for less.
One address, thousands of homes, homeguidetulsa.com. Pamela you don't have any open houses this weekend?
No, but the next 2 weekends I do.
I'm not going to an open house. I'm going to a memorial service for someone who's passed, and so that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. But we're preparing for a really busy week, and some great properties that are on the market. We've talked about 7732 South Harvard Place, $350,000. This is, I think, 2/3 of an acre, right by ORU.
Beautiful, huge yard too, and it's a beautiful home.
It is. It's a contemporary. It's like an 80s contemporary, and lots of space. About 4,454 square feet is what the courthouse says, and it is like a 3-car garage, 2-car that you use for a garage, and the 3rd car is an actual workshop, which is what many people want the 3rd car for anyway. So it's got a safe room built into it. Lots on the first level. It used to be originally like a 3-bedroom home, 1-level 3-bedroom home. So when it was expanded and it went up, you still have all the functionality of the first level with 3 bedrooms, which is in high demand now because fewer and fewer people want the steps. But you also like have family come and visit, or you have kids and like, hey, send them upstairs, so you don't have to mess with the steps. But
well, remember they have a nice large room that could be a great media room or game room, or lots of flexibility how you use it.
See the 3D tour online, homeguidetulsa.com, homeguidetulsa.com. Now, up after the break, Pamela's going to tell us what. Are you going to tell us, or are you going to coach us?
Well, I'm going to give you something to think about, to consider for yourself. There's a choice. You can look at local lenders versus online lenders. But even if their interest rate, even if the online lenders, their interest rates are lower, are they really saving you? So that's what we're going to discuss. What are the ifs and whats and ends?
What you need to know.
Yes.
And sometimes there are some
things to
pretty
consider.
good options. So here's the tip. Home maintenance. This is the time of year. Seasonal. It's the right time to check your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. And I've been reading a lot of message threads and things that really remind us how important those are, because what happens with CO2? Let's say you have your heater kicks on and there's a combustion chamber in there where the hot gases are, and it's transferring the heat into your air supply. But you don't want to transfer the dangerous gases. But if you get a cracked heat exchanger, that's where that heat is exchanging, the metal and the fins within that chamber are very thin. And after a while, moisture in the air, they can begin to rust, they can just crack. That can put dangerous gases into your home. Well, guess what? You don't smell CO2, and yet it robs oxygen. Every time you take a breath, you have less oxygen, you're suffocating. You have less oxygen in your body than before you took your breath. and you don't even know what's happening. You can start to feel tired, sluggish, especially in the middle of the night. You wake up and it's like you got headaches or whatever other. Read up on it. You'll see a lot of different things that can be attributed to this. And a CO2 alarm, which is very inexpensive, is easy to get at the store. And most smoke detectors now have, I say most, many have dual smoke and CO2 alarms built into them. So consider that, and also check your batteries. I was shopping for new batteries recently for a new smoke alarm, and so many of them have now become the 10-year that you don't even replace them for 10 years. So I don't have to deal with that annoying chirping throughout my house or in my Airbnbs.
Well, it's really important to do it now before the holiday hits, because once we get close to Thanksgiving, then Christmas, we are so busy and you forget all about it. Then you go into the winter. It's really important to do it now before the holiday hits and we get super busy.
We want you to wake up tomorrow.
Yes.
So check those smoke detectors, check the CO2
and have the
alarms.
energy. You know.
And when we come back, we will talk about local lenders versus online lenders. What you need to know when you're shopping those, it's not all about interest rate. That's the tip. One of the tips. Gave a little bit of it away. All right, back after this.
I live in a 100-year-old home. It's a home I fell in love with, and it has so many amazing features. But the one thing it does not have is straight windows. It has windows that are cracked and broken and worn out. I contacted Window World. They came in and put these brand new, amazing, incredibly beautiful windows into my home. From the outside of the house, they match the exterior perfectly. It looks like they've always been here. Now the windows are the jewels in the home. Window World, from the beginning to the end, they met and exceeded every expectation I had. Window World really is simply the best for less.
When quality and value matter most, choose Window World. Superior service, American-made products, and industry-leading warranties make us the #1 choice for your next home remodel. J.D. Power ranked Window World highest in customer satisfaction with window and patio door retailers. Be proud of your home and take care of it with a brand you can trust. Window World, America's exterior remodeler.
Advice, someone who knows the market in your area, has tools and resources that create an advantage for you as the home seller to get the best price in the shortest amount of time possible. You want a real estate professional who
Is there a way I need
you
to
and
market
not the
that might
buyer.
help?
Well, how to find the right real estate agent is easy with the free report, 20 questions you absolutely must ask your next realtor before you sign on the dotted
Good.
line.
Well, that's fine. I don't want anything else to have to think about. So you take care of it.
Real estate agent for your property. Start asking the questions. You'll have a better understanding
Well,
of
all
who
the
that
people I
person
followed
is,
up with who
how they
showed
run
some
their
interest,
business,
they
what
just
they
felt
can
like it
do
wasn't
for you.
updated enough
And
for
you'll
that
find
money,
the
for that
professionals
cost.
will really stand
Well,
out from the
that's
crowd.
that's
It's a free
unfortunate.
report. You can get
Yeah.
it in
It's a
20
great house.
questions for home
Yeah.
sellers.
The new aerial looks good. I like her aerial better than
for
ours.
homesellers.com. No cost, no obligation.
There's
Get in the
no-
driver's
They didn't
seat.
lower the
Be
price.
a home seller
And they
in the
and they
neighborhoods,
didn't
making
raise
right
the well, no,
decisions for
she'd already
you.
lowered it to
20
that in the
questions for
past.
homesellers.com.
And they didn't raise the price to realtors. You know, they didn't raise the percentage to
They
realtors.
did?
No, they didn't. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they sit on
I think that's always a good strategy.
Monday morning starting at 5 a.m. on 102.3 KRMG, Tulsa's News and Talk.
Fox News, I'm Debbie Handley. A federal judge
did you
rules
run
that grand jury
commercials?
evidence from the Mueller
Okay.
probe must be presented to the House Judiciary Committee.
The administration is expected to appeal that decision. The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, said in a statement of that, quote, the court's thoughtful ruling recognizes that our impeachment inquiry fully comports with the Constitution.
Fox's Rich Edson. A New York Police Department officer is in a medically induced coma after being hit in the head with a chair at a Brooklyn nail salon. Two officers tried to arrest a man who was urinating in the middle of the salon. A second man entered and attacked an officer, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker.
After there was some tussling, there was gunshots rang out. It was 5 o'clock, kids were leaving.
The officer being hurt isn't funny. The urinating in the middle of the nail salon.
America's
It's
listening.
funny.
Fox News.
But he had to be on something. If he's like freaking out. The ridiculousness of how we're treating officers today. You know, sure, we got a few bad officers, but they are so predominantly good and helping us deal with such ridiculousness.
Weekdays 5 to 9 on Tulsa's severe weather station, 102.3 KRMG. You know what really gets the party started?
Let me run around with a hoodie and my hands in my pockets
and you can use like anything as a ball.
and
Hands,
not comply with
bottles,
orders.
shoes.
And then you're
Hey bro, toss me that avocado.
saying they're behaving unreasonably.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.
And your
Learn
life.
more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by
Those
the
are in the
National Highway
ad. You
Traffic
can
Safety
lose
Administration
your
and the Ad
license
Council.
in this. You can also lose your life.
102.3
Driving vehicle.
KRMG has Tulsa's most accurate and dependable forecast.
The rain is finally
So
out of green country
afterwards,
this
I want to
afternoon.
talk to you about
Temperatures near
my
60
parents'
today
house.
and clear skies
I may not have
tonight,
time
low of
today.
46 with patchy
I've got
fog
a
Sunday
2:30.
morning.
So
Sunday will be
walk
the
with
best
me
day to
out.
get
I'm
outside.
also
High of
expecting
70 with lots of sunshine.
Leilani is here.
Our
She
next
needed a
big cold
photo
front arrives
for
Monday with rain returning through the
radio.
work week. I'm
And
certified
so I need to
meteorologist
take care of
Laura
that
Locke for
too.
Fox
Okay.
23 and 102.3
Well,
KRMG, Tulsa's News and Talk.
I have an offer on it for. I reached out to a few people. Listed it as is, and I got an offer of $150,000 for it as is, which I think is pretty good. And what I'm curious about is interest. What I should charge my family for representing. I was going to do 3%.
One address, thousands of homes, homeguidetulsa.com, 14430 South Yukon in Glenpool, 7.7 acres. Check out the aerial on that. You want to buy a house, move into it, and then build your own dream home right next to it. You could develop it. 7.7 acres, like the house is free. This is 47,000 whatever per acre, which is like almost unheard of in town. And it's got all the utilities. Just 14430 South Yukon in Glenpool. So I'm recycling some news. This is back from April 29th, but most people don't really know about it. Are you aware of this, Pamela? That we have a home buyer savings account program here in Oklahoma and we're only one of 10 states where first-time home buyers can create an account. Funds placed in the account are tax deductible up to $5,000 a year for individuals and $10,000 for joint filers.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Nobody ever talks about that.
Right.
And yet we've got to encourage home ownership. When you have a stake, it's like being a stockholder in your neighborhood corporation, which, unless you have an incorporated neighborhood, you don't have. But it's still, like if I own stock in a company, like I take care of that company.
Exactly.
I share the goodwill for that company. I take care of spreading good news, buying the product, whatever it is. And when we are that way with our homes in our neighborhoods, we take care of our yards, we are good to our neighbors, we look out for each other, and it's statistically proven that home ownership makes better communities. And this is a good way to do it. Look into that with the
well, we talk to people preparing to buy their first home many times, so it's good to let them know that's another option.
Okay, so local lenders, speaking of savings account, banking, blah, 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 getting your loan, a lot of stuff online.
Yes, and it looks very tempting. Lower prices here, call us here, we can help you get your money right away. And there's just a lot of things you have to watch for.
What are they?
Well, for one thing, just basic service. If you have a lender who's in town, they know more about the city. So they're going to be able to help you as far as appraisal comes, and they're going to know where the quality is. They also are more invested in you because you're part of the city. And
I did have a first-time home buyer yesterday who sat down. She was confused with all of her stuff. She was able to go to the loan company, sit down, and meet with the person who was giving her the loan.
Right. And sit
And-
there and see them face to face, go through your notes, take notes, and then reach them. You can see them, but you can reach them. You can talk to someone online, but then trying to get back to that same person and have that same kind of quality exchange, it's hard to do.
I had a large local lender. We had a Friday closing, and they were a 2-hour time difference, and we were trying to close. The buyer picked the lender. I had nothing to do with it. Just disclaimer there. And it was there was something missing. They couldn't close because they couldn't reach the lender. They had already closed their office, and the buyer was loaded up on a truck, had no place to live, and couldn't reach the lender. And so they didn't close. They lived in a hotel for that weekend so that they could close and move in, and no one could help them. And it is interesting that relation, and they didn't get that great of a deal. I don't know. I think in the end, they saved like $500.
Well, and that's the other thing about savings. Sometimes you can save on the interest rate, but then they have other fees, hidden fees that are a little bit more than what your local lender
The
might
stress
have.
can be really high.
Yes.
I mean, they had $3,000 worth of stress to save $500, and I don't even know that they saved $500. This is the shell game. Talk about this for a minute. So interest rate is only part of it,
right?
So what I'm talking about, the closing costs. Well, okay, let's take APR. If you take all of the closing costs and you pool them together, and one says my interest rate is, I'm going to offer you 5%, and another says my interest rate is going to be 4%. If one, I'm exaggerating these numbers, if one says at the 5%, my closing costs are 0, and the next, we give you 4%, come close with us, and our closing costs are $10,000, well,
you haven't saved any money.
Well, maybe. You have to take that. That's why the APR calculation is important. It's a government required disclosure. I used to not think a whole lot of it because closing costs were really similar in our market. But because we're dealing with such a national marketplace now, and there's so much competing for your business, the APR disclosure can be really, really important. And what you have to look at is, what if, and this goes back to the old days when you used to have a base interest rate and then you bought points, discount points. And so you'd pay extra in closing costs to bring your interest rate down. Well, what you would do in those days is you would calculate how much more you're paying and how much you're saving, and you'd say, okay, well, it's going to take me X number of months or X number of years to pay this off. So if you were gonna pay it off, the extra that you were paying in 3.5 years, but you knew you were going to stay there for 6 years, then everything after 3.5 years was a savings. The same thing is happening today with these types of online things. It becomes a shell game where if you don't know what you're looking for, you can fall prey to these, and I'll call them tricks of the trade. And whether they're really a trick or not, it's just a marketing game. They're presenting it to you to make you think, oh, I'm getting the best deal. It's the lowest interest rate. Okay, well, it is the lowest interest rate with the highest closing costs. That's not good. So at least maybe the lower interest rate with the higher closing costs is a good idea, but you need to know the facts and calculate that out and see where it really starts to pay off.
But also keep in mind the value of the good service, because you want to be able to reach your person. You want to have your person invested enough in you to really care, and also to know the community. You know, I had an online lender from out of state, and they didn't understand that in Tulsa, Swan Lake is a very highly regarded neighborhood. So when they did the appraisal, they didn't give any points for that, and
but that becomes a local underwriting scenario where a local underwriter understands the community, and sometimes now they're doing national underwriting where it's being shipped off somewhere else. They don't know those things,
right? And they're not invested because they don't think they're going to ever see you again. Someone local wants to do a good job for you because they say, okay, if I do a good job for you, you'll remember me, you'll come back. When they're online, they know they're not going to see you again.
I know you're telling the truth.
Okay.
Okay, I know you are.
Do I sound a little fiery about it?
No, you don't sound fiery. It sounds.
I've just recently have had some problems with that.
Here's the cynical side of me.
Okay.
And I'm stepping into those shoes. I don't like to be this way, but there's the side of me that is, okay, service, schmervis. You can't really define that. You can't quantify it, and it sounds good, but all I care about is the interest rate. Just give me the interest rate. And that's the way a lot of consumers are thinking.
That's right. But service might mean you didn't close. In the instance that you're talking about, they didn't close. And not in the instance I'm talking about, they didn't close.
So if you're watching on Facebook, you can see this. I just lifted up my notes. It's so funny that you say this, because a good deal is getting to the closing table, not just this hypothetical interest rate that never gets you to closing.
And if your closing gets postponed because your lender didn't go through and communicate, you guys didn't communicate, you didn't get everything you needed, everything they wanted, guess what? The seller is not obligated to extend that closing. The seller has the opportunity to walk away.
And
so you may lose, and sometimes keep your earnest money. So, and you may lose the house you want, the house you've been preparing for.
Yeah, I know the story that you're relating this to, and it's probably one of the more extremes that I've ever seen, and it is exacerbated by this issue of what used to be required to be local, because you had to, our communication was local. Now that we have the internet and so much can be done without even speaking to someone, literally, you can just click some buttons and process it online. There is more of a disconnect, and it's more dangerous than ever that you can find yourself in a situation where you're either being defrauded or you're getting bad service, and you were kind of duped into this process because you didn't know what you were stepping into. It doesn't sound, and this is why I'm going to circle back around to this service comment. It's hard to quantify. But yet, Pamela, I agree with you, and I agree with what you're saying. But how to describe this so that a home buyer or a consumer understands why you need to pay attention to this when they don't know how to measure it is very challenging, because it sounds like we're just playing a violin, singing a little song here, trying to convince people to use somebody local, when in reality, there's no reason that they should. But in the end, these reasons do matter.
They do matter, and it's important to have a good buy. A home, you don't buy that often. It's a big expense. It's important to you. Nothing's more important to you than the home you live in, when you feel good when you come home. And you want the home that you started working on. That's the one you're invested in. So all of that really weighs, and you need to consider that, as well as the interest rate and a little bit of savings you think you might be getting may not be as big a savings as you thought.
Well, and you may not be getting a good deal. Remember this, in real estate, the good deal is getting to the closing table. And I can't stress that enough. It happens all the way around. The negotiation isn't taking place. This is why you need to be nice to your buyer and be nice to your seller under as many circumstances as possible, because you may need them to reciprocate, and you don't want bad blood in the beginning. And it can come down to these things where everything looks good for you until it doesn't. And now you've got to ask for some special favor from someone because the lender didn't come through, the appraisal came up with something, there were some repairs that were needed, and you're beyond negotiating your price. Now you're negotiating your terms because you need to move your family in. So that's what we help with at the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. All of these experiences, different circumstances, different loan types, different houses, different buyers, different ages of buyers, different combinations of family members. It just goes on and on and on. They're never the same. And that's why you need a good real estate professional, somebody who understands what they're doing when they walk through this, so that they can give you, they can be a sounding board for you, throw out some ideas, some things for you to consider. How are you going to feel if? How are you going to feel if this happens, or if this person does that, or if this falls through? How do we protect your earnest money so that you don't lose it? And we negotiate something that's fair to you, and also may meet the terms of the seller or the buyer, whichever the other side is. Just important stuff. The Baskin Real Estate Specialists, 918-740-0077. I'm Daryl Baskin. You're listening to The Future of Real Estate. Let's take a break. We've got all kinds of other stuff coming up. Thanks for listening.
I live in a 100-year-old home. It's a home I fell in love with, and it has so many amazing features. But the one thing it does not have is straight windows. It has windows that are cracked and broken and worn out. I contacted Window World. They came in and put these brand new, amazing, incredibly beautiful windows into my home. From the outside of the house, they match the exterior perfectly. It looks like they've always been here. Now the windows are the jewels in the home. Window World, from the beginning to the end, they met and exceeded every expectation I had. Window World really is simply the best for less.
When quality and value matter most, choose Window World. Superior service, American-made products, and industry-leading warranties make us the #1 choice for your next home remodel. J.D. Power ranked Window World highest in customer satisfaction with window and patio door retailers. Be proud of your home and take care of it with a brand you can trust. Window World, America's exterior remodeler.
Tulsa.com. Tip of the week, and we talked about checking smoke detectors and CO2 alarms. What about your fireplace? It is time to get that checked out. Fireplace fires, chimney fires, are very dangerous, and it's the soot buildup. And who knows what kind of critter has crawled in there. I don't even like sticking my head and looking up, like what's going to fall out. There's all this chirping going on. My cat decided that it wanted to use the, Greer's over here laughing, wanted to use the, what's that, vermiculite underneath the gas logs. That became the litter box.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, now the cat just sits at the front door and meows, wanting in. That's never going to happen again. That just doesn't happen in my house. But it was because birds got up in the chimney. You got to get those cleaned. It's very important, and take care of your family. There's your tip. Okay, so we've got TTCU on the line here.
It's Callie McGuire.
Sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to just go
I
ahead
think
and right
maybe
into it.
the credit score is the only thing that matters when you're getting a home loan. Well, you have to think again. What is it?
Yes.
What matters?
Yeah, so credit score
What else
is
do I have?
important, but also your history of
You
repayment
have
is
an
important
integrity
too.
title.
So
Why do you use
we're
a
also going
realtor?
to look
But
at
I'm sure
late
I don't have
payments.
time for it. It's 8
Do you
minutes.
make a lot of those? What are you making late payments on? Are you
Let me
making
look
late
for
payments on a
another one.
mortgage?
Let's drop in.
Because that's not good. So that's going to be one of those things that I'm going to tell you. Make your payments on time on everything, whether it's a credit card or your mortgage or a car payment. Make those on time because late payments do show up on a credit report, and lenders are looking at that because if we're going to loan money on a big purchase, we want to make sure that you're not late on that same big purchase right now in the instance if we're doing a refinance.
You know, sometimes people feel like they talk about a joke that I feel like a
Are
criminal
you
getting a
going to get
loan
online
because
with this?
you just run through the ringer. But think of like, okay, the old story, your brother-in-law comes to you and needs to
I've
borrow
seen
some
you
money.
before.
Yeah, I just
Okay,
wanted to have the
now,
returns and
if
have him have
you've known him for a long time and you know he's always late
Oh,
on
okay.
payments,
I like your
he
tennis
never
shoes. How
manages
cute are
his money
that?
right,
The
or
little bad
whatever,
shoes.
her,
Yeah,
your
I
sister-in-law,
couldn't
whatever it is,
remember
you just think of that family
So do you
member,
need to be in the
I
picture
don't want to
too?
make them alone.
I did.
I'm not giving them any money. Well, lenders, they don't even know you. They're just looking at your
Yeah,
credit
you're right.
report,
We finish up
your
right at
history of
1:59.
managing money, and they're about ready to make a
Okay.
very large.
No, I understand.
Take a
I
very
just know
large
I'd seen
risk
you here
with
before, so I thought maybe I was
So
going to help you get hooked up.
They're managing their
And what
risk
nonprofit are you
by
with?
making sure you're who you say you are. The property's where it's supposed to be, that it's in good condition, and guess what? That you meet all the
Yeah.
requirements.
Absolutely, I remember that. I remember that.
Proper credit history,
And you came out and talked to our
employment,
group.
etc.
We
And that's
are-
why
are-
you may feel like
Yeah,
a
I remember
criminal.
that.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it's the way it is.
Right.
Either
Very
that or
good.
pay cash.
Yes, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Exactly. Which we don't want people to pay cash. We want to get the opportunity to loan them that money. But yeah, I mean that is something that I don't think people realize how important that it really is. And we don't want you to default on this loan. We don't want you to get into a bad situation where your debt to income ratio is too high, and this particular home purchase is going to put you in a bind because no lender wants that for you because you're the realtor, not the lender. We don't want to get that house back.
Well, let me back up
We
and
want
say
it to
this.
be a good transaction.
Let me say this, and this can't come out of your mouth because I see both sides of it. Some lenders don't really care if you get yourself in a bad situation, and that's why we ended up with such a bad situation when we had the mortgage crisis, because they make the loan, then they turn around and sell it on down the line. Well, TTCU, and I am turning this into a commercial. It's supposed to be just educational, but now I'm going to turn it into a commercial. You keep your loans, so you keep the servicing on those loans. You do care,
correct?
Because it does affect you, and that's why there's a completely different culture at TTCU because it's member driven. It is not where's the next sale coming from, and then it becomes somebody else's problem. That's a huge difference.
You're going to take a picture.
Right. We want everything done the first time
Hopefully
because
Mike, you wanna come over here and
be
do this,
talking
and then you
to
don't
our
have to
members
wait?
when they do a home loan with us for potentially the next
Well, I didn't know how
30
long
years.
this
So
was
we don't
going
want you to
on.
have a bad
So,
experience. We want you to understand
here.
every part of the transaction. That way, when you get that correspondence with us, that you feel comfortable and can call us, and we'll help you out. So you are
Okay,
correct.
then
So
we'll
many
then we'll
lenders,
wait.
they
Okay.
don't
Here's some
want to
headphones.
a lot of times, I feel like, and they are just taking that loan off
Here's
for
some
the
headphones.
member to service it. And we find that there's a lot of things that other lenders are not collecting at the table that later people are getting smacked with. One of those is property taxes. They don't collect enough property taxes, and then later on down the line, when property taxes are due, you're getting a call that, hey, you need to come up with $2,000. Well, depending on what has happened in your life, you may not have that.
Somebody else has to explain it. So here's the moral of the story.
We're great for that.
Late payments, don't make them. Make them
I
on
just
time. So apply. You can apply now. TTCU.com. And
Yeah, that's going to save me a
so
huge amount of
somebody's going
time.
to call you back on Monday.
Thank you.
And when you get that pre-approval letter, it's a real pre-approval letter. We've talked about that before, and it's something that you can rely on. So check them out at TTCU, TTCU.com, Tulsa.
I almost said
TTCU,
the old
10 seconds left.
Credit Union. I almost went back to the old days, like 15 years
Yes,
ago.
you did.
All right, Allie, thank you so much. Always good to have you on the show.
All right, here we go.
Well, one address, thousands of homes, homeguidetulsa.com. Speaking of taxes, assessments, and prorations, did you know there is a part of the contract? This is I call it fine print. I hate saying fine print because Oklahoma Real Estate Commission contracts, that's what we use predominantly. And it's nice because there's a standard. So, whether you like it or not doesn't matter. It's just that this is the standard. So we'll work from that. Anything we change from that can then be agreed by buyer and seller. Now, when we get into commercial contracts, they can be very complicated. But there's a nice simplified contract that the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission puts out. And it's been reviewed by probably, 500,000 attorneys by now. Who knows? But lots of people have had eyes on it. And one of the segments of this contract that it needs to be taken care of, that works in the background and is usually not a problem, is that taxes, assessments, and prorations. So one of my clients recently asked, hey, they were buying a rental property. They said, what happens with the utilities? How do we make sure do we have an agreement that they're going to pay them ahead of time, and I'm not going to be stuck with it because all the utilities have to stay on for the tenants. So it's a little bit different. Normally you'd be like, hey, they moved out, they turned them off, no big deal. But they didn't want to be stuck with something that carried over to them. Well, the following items shall be paid by the seller at closing: documentary stamps, all utility bills, actual or estimated. And that's where you come into that understanding that, well, maybe you just have to divide it by 30 because at some point, in some instances, you're not able to get that full final reading for whatever reason.
But it's nice that it's so clearly defined.
It is. But how many times have you done a contract and actually read that out loud with your client? Those are the things that don't really matter until they do. Right. And as much as we go over this, and I'm saying this on behalf of all consumers and working with your real estate professional, as much as we go over these things, they don't matter until they do. They become relevant at some point. And it's like Bridget told me the other day, hey, I borrowed this. And I said, okay, great. And then I called this morning and I said, did you take that? And she said, yes, and I told you. And I said, well, it just wasn't relevant at the time. Now it's relevant. Now, that's the way we are. And so these things are important as you go through, and having a coach, that real estate professional by your side, to answer these questions as you go and show where somebody who really understands the forms that you're signing. Make sure they've read it. I can't tell you how many real estate agents I've coached and said, they'd come to me and they ask a question. I say, well, did you read the contract? You mean you're asking this person to sign a contract? You haven't even read it? You don't even understand it yourself? Shame on you. So ask them the questions. Make sure they take you right to where it says it. And then you're really working with a pro. I'm Daryl Baskin. You're listening to the Future of Real Estate, Tulsa source for local real estate news and information. Today's program brought to you by TTCU Federal Credit Union, Integrity Title and Abstract, Window World of Tulsa, Goodman Construction and Roofing, and the Baskin Real Estate Specialists. We'll see you here next week on the Future of Real Estate.
You're listening to the Future of Real Estate.
Okay. They're going to be coming in, so let's get that.